The day that you commit yourself 100% to your purpose, your entire life will change. When I was growing up as a teenager, I didn't know what my purpose was. My mother was an award winning educator, and my father was an aircraft engineer and a Protestant preacher. They taught me the importance of hard work, taught me how to have good morals and strong values. They also taught me how to volunteer and the importance of volunteering and contributing to your community. They encouraged me to go to school and learn. I read about John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. and George Washington, all the founding fathers. I studied all of the presidents of the United States of America, and I studied Nelson Mandela and the different world leaders that had contributed in some way beyond just leading their nation, but in some way to humanity. And with all of that, I was concerned that as a teenager, I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know what school to go to or what skills to develop because I didn't know what my purpose was and I didn't know what my talents were. As far as I knew, um, one of my talents was just hard work. If I wasn't studying in school, I was working around the house. And if I wasn't working around the house, I was volunteering at church or helping people out in the community. After I graduated from high school, I went to a community college for a short period of time. And I remember attending the community college courses. I was in algebra. And I was sitting there feeling like I was just doing busy work. I was doing the same work that I had done in my high school classes. And I knew I had to complete community college to go on to university. And I was told by my parents that that's something that was an expectation, that's something that I should do. But I remember having a conversation with some of the adults when I was a teenager. And I remember telling them when they asked me what I wanted to do and they told me to dream big, I told them I wanted to be a national leader, like John F. Kennedy, like Martin Luther King Jr., like George Washington, like all the other people in our country who had done so much to move our country forward and to contribute to humanity. And when you hear that from a teenager, you just hear, come on, like relax. Like you haven't even paid rent yet. You don't even know how to drive. What do you mean you want to be a national leader? It's a funny thing to say. Essentially, they told me to sit down, shut up, and listen and learn. And while I was attending this algebra class in community college, I heard those words playing over and over in my head. As I looked around and I saw that, my academic journey was very unfulfilling. I was working retail and I felt like I was in this weird place where my life could either go down or it can go up. Either I could set myself out on a path that will maximize my potential and potentially become a national leader, or I could play it safe. I could stay at community college and do whatever my parents expected me to do. I should just sit down, shut up, listen, and learn. When I heard that going over and over in my in my head, that voice going over and in my head, I had a decision to make. I either could accept it and say, you know what, these are words of discouragement, and these words of discouragement should make me change my expectations of myself. Or, which is what I did, I can listen to those words going on and over in my head. I can use them as motivation to set myself on a path that will maximize my potential. And so I began looking. I began looking for opportunities for me to accelerate the progress that I needed to make. If I needed to learn, if I needed to become an adult, if I needed to get a job and build a career, and if I needed to learn more about the world, I would. It didn't matter what challenge that I was expected to face, I was going to face those challenges. It didn't matter what problems I needed to solve, I was going to figure out how to solve those problems or ask somebody for help. It didn't matter what difficult road I had to go down, I would go down whatever difficult road I needed to go down. But I was going to do everything in my power to live my purpose. Shortly after that, I decided to drop out of the community college and go join the United States Air Force as an airman. I started out as one of the lowest levels. You start out as Airman Basic. I signed up as an aircraft mechanic on the KC-10A extender. And I remember completing basic training. That was a big moment for me. My father was there of my big family. My father was the one that showed up, and I was very happy to see his face. And I remember walking across the graduation field, the parade field. And I remember thinking, and each time I've gone through different milestones in my life, I've always taken a step back to check in with myself. And many times I would search the face of the Almighty to show me what move I should make next, for clear guidance on where my path should go. And I remember walking across the parade field, and I remember praying as I was listening to the drum beat that was keeping all of us in line. And I remember asking God, like, hey, what should I do next? I know I've signed up to be an aircraft mechanic. I know I'm going to be in the military for at least 6 years. That's how long my contract is. But I really was searching to see what additional things I should do in order to make sure that I learn what I need to learn so that one day I can become a national leader. It wasn't enough for me just to be excellent at my job as a crew chief on the KC-10. It wasn't enough for me just to be an outstanding airman. It wasn't enough for me just to have a successful military career. I wanted something more. There was something inside me. There was like a fire burning inside me that wanted more. I walked across the stage. I graduated from tech school and I became a KC-10A mechanic, just like I signed up to be. And I eventually deployed once for Operation Enduring Freedom and once for Operation Iraqi Freedom. I served as an Air Force Base Honor Guardsman, and along the way, I applied to the United States Air Force Academy. When I got in, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was deployed, checking my email, and I got the email notification that I had got into the U.S. Air Force Academy Preparatory School. And of course, I was going to take it. I had done so much work up to that point. And I remember checking in and searching the face of the Almighty. And I remember checking in with myself and about the path that I was getting ready to take. Going to the academy was going to be very strenuous. It was going to set me up so that I had all the requirements that I needed to become a commissioned officer. And I remember asking God, I was like, is this the right move? Or should I just stay enlisted and become and do what I need to do as enlisted? Because one day I want to become a national leader. One day I want to be able to contribute to society and not just to our country. And one day I want to move us forward. So I want to make sure that at this stage I learn what I need to learn. If I need to stay longer as enlisted to learn how to follow, if I need to stay longer as enlisted to learn more work ethic or to learn more technical skills, or if I need to focus more on traveling the world, I want to get as much benefit from this experience as possible. And I remember getting that warm feeling that I typically feel when everything is going well. And I was encouraged to attend the Air Force Academy. I eventually graduated and became a commissioned officer in the United States Air Force. And I started a career as an officer. And after a few years as an officer, I found myself at U.S. Cyber Command, working as a cyber operations planner. And I remember getting ready to apply to get my master's in business administration from the University of Maryland. I was going to have to go to school on nights and weekends. And I was considering what my specialization was going to be. I could choose a topic that I would be able to use, like maybe in acquisitions or something, to continue my military career, or I could choose a specialization in the University of Maryland that would allow me to be more marketable on the outside world. And I remember talking to one of my mentors at Cyber Command, and when I had a conversation with my mentor, I was telling them like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm at Cyber Command. I'm an officer because one day I want to be a national leader. One day I want to contribute not just to our country, but also to the advancement of the free world and contribute in society to society in some meaningful way that will last multiple generations. And I remember him smiling a little bit, almost in disbelief. And he said like, "Hey, it may sound good that you're an officer and you went to the academy and you have the pedigree that will make you a great general officer, but you don't know anything about business. And the majority of the people in the United States don't serve in the military. So even though you have a lot of military experience and you have everything that it takes to become a general officer, you study military strategy as a bachelor, getting your bachelor's of science in military strategy. You don't have what it takes to even be president because you don't you don't have any like economic or commercial experience." And that hit me because I know so many people who spend their entire life just to get into the academy or just to become a commissioned officer in the military. And I know so many people who are frustrated that they, once they do all of that and they become a general officer, that they're not able to impact society in the way that they had imagined when they started their journey. And I felt like that as a first lieutenant getting ready to put on captain in the United States Air Force. I felt like I had spent so much time investing in my military career that I had completely neglected learning what I needed to learn to lead an economy or um, to build my economic and my business acumen. And it was at that time that I decided that I was going to specialize in something during my master's in business administration. I was going to specialize in something that would allow me to be more marketable and would allow me to learn the things that I need to learn to improve my business acumen. And if anything knows anything about me, you know that I dream big. I think long term. I'm a very strategic thinker. I like to go after long term goals versus short term goals. And so it wasn't enough for me to get a specialization. I also wanted to put myself on a career path where I would be able to get the experience that I need working with industry clients and working with people who have never served in the military, but I wanted to work with the best firms so that I can learn as much as I can learn about how the economy works. Long story short, I ended up going after a position at one of the big four accounting firms in the world as a consultant in their commercial practice. And it took me over a year of constant pursuit. Fail, try, fail, try, fail, try, until one day I succeeded. And I finally earned a role, a position, an offer at one of the big four accounting firms in the world. And of course, I accepted it. They were paying exactly what I needed for it to make sense. They allowed me to live where I wanted to live. And they provided me additional training, so transitionary training, so that I could use my military experience and convert that into something of value in the business world. And I built a successful career serving as a consultant at one of the big four accounting firms for over a decade. And I'll tell you this, one of the things that I learned through that process is that regardless of the career that I had, or regardless of my career goals, my short term career goals, I learned that my purpose in life never changed. I had always been searching for the experience that I needed, that they told me a teenage guy needed. I was always searching for that experience that I needed in order to contribute not just to my community and to my country, but also to the world. I was still focused on becoming a national leader. So I served as a consultant. And as I was wrapping up my career as a consultant, I began to think about what is next. And again, I searched the face of the Almighty. I prayed and I searched inside me for what my next step would be. As a consultant, I can manage 4 or 5 projects, work across two, maybe 3 industries, and still be an expert. That's how dialed in I was, and I still am. But as one of the frustrations that I felt was I could only have so many meetings. There's only so many back-to-backs that I can take. There's only so many industries I can potentially influence. We were delivering digital transformations to my clients, and I believe that the work that I was doing was exciting because I was creating jobs and I was making things more efficient. I was also transforming the user experience and their client experience so that they can close bigger and bigger opportunities. So I felt as if the work that I would do was doing was was very consequential because it was allowing my clients to earn more money. And if they earn more money, then they create more profits. And if they are able to create more profits, they're able to pay people even more and they're able to save jobs. So I was very passionate about that, about understanding my role and contributing as a consultant because I felt as if the work that I was doing was building the economy, was growing the economy and making stronger industries by making more profitable companies. And by in turn, I was helping people achieve a better quality of life. Well, one of my frustrations at the time was I only, I felt as if I was very limited because I can only reach a couple of industries. And there were so many other industries out there that needed support, that needed to grow, that needed to get stronger. There were so many companies out there that needed to be more profitable. There were so many more employees that needed higher wages. With the way the inflation was working, it's almost setting people up to fail. It's like the economy is rigged because as you earn more money, as you work harder, you earn more money, and as you earn more money, you get taxed more. The people who are really winning at life and are able to just live a life of luxury, they're the people who have never worked a day in their life. I've met people who haven't worked and honest days working over 50 years just because they have the resources in their family. And I've met other people who have worked from the time that they were 10, 11, 12, and they have never stopped working. And they're never going to be able to stop working because they're trying to provide a better quality of life for their children. And they may never be successful in their lifetime. It may take them 2, 3, 4 lifetimes just to get their head above water. And so knowing that situation was happening, I felt a little bit frustrated and limited in my role as a consultant at one of the big four accounting firms in the world. Even though I still enjoy consulting my clients and serving as a trusted advisor and leading engagements, even though I still enjoy that, I told myself and I had to come to terms with myself that I needed to become a speaker. I needed to learn how to give a keynote speech. I needed to learn how to tell my own story. I needed to be able to find the courage to put myself out there and be vulnerable, but also strong and courageous and a visionary all at the same time. It was time for me to do something that I really didn't want to do. And I'd been avoiding my almost my whole life. I didn't want to be the public figure. I I wanted to be a national leader. I wanted to do something for society, but it was more out of an act of service. I get no extra joy out of being a figurehead of a country. I get no extra joy about being a figurehead of a company. Where my joy comes from, where my fulfillment comes from is being able to maximize my potential and maximize my ability to change the lives of other people, to improve their lives. That's where I live. That's what makes me excited. That's what brings me to life, knowing that there is something that I can do to make someone else's life better. So I decided to become a keynote speaker, do motivational speeches. And by being a speaker, I'd be able to talk to people across industries about how to stay inspired, how to develop determination, how to maintain your commitment to pursue excellence in everything that you do, and how all the things that you do, even the little things that you go through, are preparing you to one day create an economy that will change so many people's lives and allow people to experience prosperity and to live in harmony. Eventually, I believe that I will make a speech to an organization or someone will hear the message that I'm saying, and I believe that that person will be inspired to do something that they would not have ordinarily have done. And when enough people hear my message, I believe that they will be more motivated and more inspired to work and sacrifice and fight for freedom. We'll have a bigger economy. Be able to live a better quality of life. Our families will be healthier and happier. Our healthcare system will be better. Our infrastructure will be modernized. There's a lot of things that I see in the future happening just by me giving the right speech to the right person and them understanding it. So that's what really motivates me about being a speaker. Eventually, I may run for office, and I know there are some people out there who have encouraged me in that, and I appreciate my supporters. I believe if the time is right, or when the time is right, I will consider a run for office. Right now, we're in the process of creating a movement, so we're building organizations and organizing our resources and working on making sure that we deliver messages that are impactful and inspirational and motivational. I said all that. I gave you my journey of why I became a keynote speaker because I want you to know that there are some people out there, me included, who have doubted, who have questioned what their purpose is on this earth. And it's very difficult for me or anyone. It's very difficult for us as we go through the different phases and journeys and side quests that we have in life to maintain your focus on your purpose. But the people who have the best determination, the people who have the best intelligence, the best creativity, the people who have the best work ethic, the people who are called and chosen, they're able to maintain their focus above all the distractions and pursue the reason why they are here. The best people are able to focus on their purpose regardless of what distractions they face. And I want to encourage you today to do just that. I know that there are people out there just like me who have been discouraged by people who do not know what their purpose is. Some out of ignorance, some out of jealousy, some just out of being mean. I know that there are some people out there who are called to different things. Some people are called to think short term and to contribute short term value to society. Those people have a purpose. But there are maybe there's a few, but there are other people who their purpose is to think long term and to have a long term impact on society. And the people out there who think long term and their purpose is to have a long term impact on society, many of those people are the most unhappy people you'll ever meet. And I'm not talking about walking around the world unhappy and and looking unhappy. I'm not talking about the people that look angry and act angry. I'm saying that the people out there who are supposed to contribute long term to society, sometimes inside, they are the most unhappy people, most unfulfilled people. The reason why they're the most unfulfilled people is because people who think long term have been convinced by people who think short term that their vision is not valid. They have been convinced by people who think short term that their purpose is not worth anything. They have been convinced by people who think short term that their skills and their talent is not important. This is the reason why they are the most unhappy people because they live in a world that rewards short term value with short term gains, short term rewards. And these people think long term and they value long term gains. They value long term rewards. They value long term contributions. They value long term commitment. We see it everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's a conflict between people who think short term and people who think long term. You see it in the dating world. There are some people out there who think very short term about dating and relationships and even marriage. And there's other people out there who think long term and they're always at odds with each other. You see it out there in students in people's academic journey. There's students out there who think short term and are willing to cut the system and not learn what they need to learn in each class. And there are some people out there who think long term. Say, even if I get a B, I want to make sure that I learn the things that I need to learn in this class so that I can use it later on in life. And there are some students out there who don't care. They just care about passing the quiz. They just care about getting the high score on the test, and they're ready to brain dump after the class is over and move on with life. We see it right now in the business world. There are there are employees that think long term, and there are employees that think short term. There are some employees that will go to work, do the job, and they won't really care about the results of whether or not the company is profitable. And there's other employees that go to work and they do concern themselves with whether or not their company is profitable, because they know that if their company is profitable in the long term, their career is going to get better than if their company is not profitable. We see it on the employer side. Some employers think very short term about their employees, and there are other employers that think long term. I was fortunate to belong to one of the big four accounting firms in the world that thinks long term about their talent, long term about their employees' careers. And so they were able to invest in professional development when other consultants firms did not invest in professional development. And I believe that's one of the reasons why the firm that I work with led the industry in technology innovation. We see it again in politics. There are some politicians out there that think short term about their role in society, and there are some politicians out there that think long term about their role in society. The politicians that think short term, they just want to get to the election. They want to survive the primary. They want to make sure that their role in Congress is secure. And there are other politicians out there that think long term. They want to make sure that the decisions that they make and the laws that they create and the impact that they have on society moves our country forward in the long run versus just trying to make a quick buck in the short run. The politicians out there who think short term, they're more concerned about the welfare of their family and their friends versus the welfare of the entire nation and the nation's future generations. Everywhere we look, there is a conflict between people who think short term and people who think long term. Everywhere we look, the people who think short term have small dreams, smaller visions, and there's a role for people who can focus on the short term. There's a purpose. The people who think short term, they have value. I'm not going to discount them completely altogether. They do have some value. The people who think short term have the type of value that allows them to be very tactical and to be very, very proficient in the moment. But the people who think long term also have value. And the value that people have that think long term allows society, allows businesses, allows employees, allows students, allows everyone in our society to experience long term gains, long term rewards, experience long term freedom, just based on their contributions to society. Somewhere I read that you are the salt of the earth. There was a leader who said, "You are the salt of the earth. If the salt has lost its savor, where is it going to be salted?" Um, the people out there who think long term are the salt of the earth. The salt preserves. Salt allows a piece of meat to be edible and still able to nourish the body after a long period of time. Without salt, it would not preserve. Without salt, it would not taste as good. If the people who think long term, the people who have big dreams and great vision, if people like you and me stop dreaming, stop seeing the things that we're seeing, stop pursuing the things that we're pursuing, if we stop pursuing excellence in everything that we do, if the people who think long term, like me and you, stop doing what we're doing, then we are not going to be able to enjoy the long term benefits and the long term rewards that we are expected to experience. The salt will not, there will be no one there to salt the earth. There'll be no one, if we don't do what we do, sacrifice that we make, if we don't do what we do, no one is going to do it. Many times we're made to feel like we don't belong. And sometimes we get convinced that we're like everyone else. I used to work on aircraft in the United States Air Force, and one thing that I've noticed, if you ever gone to an airport, you notice that the airplanes are parked in a certain area of the airport. And there are buses that are also parked in a different area of the airport. Many of you do not know whether or not you're a bus or whether or not you're an airplane. Because many of us are convinced by people who are buses that we need to learn how to stop at stoplights. We have been convinced that we need to learn how to park in a garage. We have been convinced to bend our wings and just make ourselves shrink so that we can fit wherever a bus can fit. Many of you all, just like me, are airplanes, and we have been convinced to act as if we are buses. We have been convinced that we need to keep our wheels on the ground. We have been convinced that we need to make sure that we are able to make frequent stops. But when really, at the end of the day, if you really consider who we are, how we're made up, and the purpose that we have here on this earth, people who think long term are actually airplanes. We're not buses. We're supposed to cruise at 50,000 feet, no problem. We're supposed to be able to go from New York to Los Angeles in under 5 hours. We're supposed to be able to do things that buses are not able to do. There are some things that we have in common with people who think short term. There are some things that airplanes have in common with buses, but let me explain something to you. If you see an airplane that is acting exactly like a bus, it would make a pretty horrible looking bus. It wouldn't do the job of a bus as well as a bus can do the job of a bus. And the opposite is also true. A bus cannot do the job of an airplane as well as an airplane can do a job of the airplane. People who think short term about life and short term about goals are never going to be able to replace people who think long term about goals and long term about their contributions to society. I'm not saying that there is no value in either one of them. There is value in them. But we need airplanes to start acting like airplanes, and we need buses to start acting like buses. And we need to stop taking classes from people who don't know the difference. We need to make sure that, think about it, you're an airplane. You got wings. You have the ability to fly higher, farther, faster than any bus can ever go. And it takes work. Someone who is a high achiever, it takes work for you to go from point A to point B. It takes planning. You have to consider several things like the weather, the conditions. You have to make sure that you're deconflicting your traffic patterns so that you don't collide into another aircraft and cause some sort of fatal accident. It takes a team to make sure that you have the right direction. It takes a pilot and a co-pilot and a flight engineer and maybe some flight attendants to operate. Your overhead is much higher than a bus. Yet people are walking around being convinced that even though that they're airplanes, they're being convinced that they should start acting like buses, that it doesn't take any long-term planning, that you don't need a team, that you don't need to consider the different aspects of life so that you can be successful. They're trying to convince you that you don't need to go to cruise at 50,000 feet. You travel the best when you're cruising at high level, at a high altitude. They're trying to convince you not to have that vision. They're trying to convince you not to dream big. They're trying to convince you not to cast your vision into the future. You're an airplane. Stop taking advices from people. I'll say that again. You're an airplane. Stop taking advice from people who are buses. Okay, there's only a certain amount of help that they can provide you. Eventually, airplanes need to take classes from airplanes, and buses need to take classes from buses. Just like a pilot, a pilot can drive a bus. Okay, let's say that I've seen a pilot be able to get behind a bus and drive the bus. I've seen that in the Air Force. Pilots can drive buses. But you would be hard pressed to find a bus driver, someone who is trained to be a bus driver, and then put them in the cockpit of an airplane and expect them to be able to take off, land, and navigate and do all the things that they need to do in order to land that aircraft successfully. I'm not saying that bus drivers have no purpose. I'm saying that if you're a bus driver, be a bus driver. If you're a plane, if you're a pilot, be a pilot. But stop trying to fit in with buses if you're not a bus. Stop trying to fit in with airplanes if you're not an airplane. Think long term about life. Think long term about your success. Think long term about your academic journey. Think long term about your career. It is possible for you to create a contribution to society that will last for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And only you can do it. All right. That's my message for you today. If you are looking for change, if you consider yourself an airplane instead of a bus, if you think long term about society and your contributions to it, if you want to get ahead, generate wealth, and create a legacy, if you believe in love and you want healthy relationships, support this channel. I'm bringing together people just like you so that we can change the economy, so that men, women, and children of every ethnicity can experience prosperity and live in harmony. All right, I'll talk to you in the next video.